Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Simplicity at Speed, how Cato's SASE drives the Heuer Porsche Formula E team. My name is Heuer. I'm the VP of Product Marketing here at Cato Networks, and my guest of honor today is Friedemann Kurz, Head of IT at Porsche Motorsport. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. You're welcome to submit questions at any time using the chat window on the right-hand side of your screen. We will follow up with you after the webinar if we don't get a chance to reply to your questions live. And we will also make a recording of this webinar available to you within a couple of days. So with that being said, let's get started. So before we start with our very exciting conversation with Friedemann, a quick poll for all of you who joined us today. We would like to know if you are happy with your current network performance and network security. The options are happy with the network, not so much with the security, happy with the security, not so much with the network, not happy about both, or happy about both. So let's give all our audience here a few seconds to feel. Well, apparently nobody is happy about both. And most of the people we see right now are happy with the security, not so much with the network. Very few are not happy about both. Okay, so that's a good starting point for our conversation today. So I'll stop the screen sharing now so we can see ourselves and enjoy this conversation. So Friedemann, hello. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, thanks you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's an honor to have you. So let's start with an introduction. For those familiar with Porsche, but not with the Heuer Porsche Formula E team, can you provide a kind of a quick overview, please?
I'd love to, yeah. So yeah, Formula E and the Heuer Porsche Formula E team, it's all about electrical racing. It's all electric. It's the first carbon net zero certified racing series. It's pretty young still. It's in the 9th season. We started competing from the 6th season on. It is racing in global cities, so worldwide. And yeah, we are competing as Porsche Motorsport with the Heuer Formula E, Heuer Porsche Formula E team. And yeah, are really excited about the results, especially this season.
That's exciting. We're excited about the results too. My next question is that you come from IT and I come from IT, and we know that every organization in the world has critical IT requirements, let alone a leading Formula E team like the Heuer Porsche Formula E. Having that said, each organization has something unique for them. So what are the unique IT requirements of Heuer Porsche Formula E?
Imagine so we are operating worldwide, and all the races we are operating in are temporary IT build-ups. So it means we are arriving in a city somewhere in the world, we pack up all our stuff, we build up the IT, we operate the IT during the race weekend, and then we pack down everything again. And all that happens within 3 or 4 days. So it means it needs to be super efficient. And that's the main challenge we are facing, and pretty unique. It's kind of, if you go on tour with a rock concert, and that's kind of what we do at Formula E as well.
That sounds very exciting. Maybe we can speak a little bit more about Formula E racing. You mentioned that it's happening all over the world. So in what locations, how often, and what do you need from IT in those races?
So this season, in season 9, we are competing on 9 different sites worldwide. It's mainly big cities, and it's mainly on non-permanent racetracks. So it means it's on the street within the city, sometimes really close down in the city center. Makes it really easy for people to access the races, and really open for families to join it. So it's huge cities, like the biggest ones in the world, Mexico City, but also more exotic ones in areas like in India, Hyderabad or Cape Town. So a real nice mixture with cities that are also pushing forward to sustainability and carbon net zero approaches on how cities are behaving in the future. So the challenge, again, non-permanent racetracks means there is no infrastructure at all. We arrive in those cities. Some of them don't know them yet because it's the first time we are racing there. We need to build up the whole infrastructure and all that within 1 or 2 days until the team arrives, and the team needs to be ready to execute then.
So you're arriving ahead of the race team, building all the IT infra so that when they come in, everything is ready, and you pack last and move to the next location?
Not really. That's even more challenging because everyone arrives at the same time. So from day one
No
on,
pressure.
they are asking how long it takes until they're online, and we are building up in parallel. They still can prepare something by using VPN, for instance. So they start preparing already. We arrive at the same time. And as soon as the network is ready, then we can start with the full operation.
Got it. All right, that's cool. So if we kind of look at the IT challenges of TAG Heuer Porsche Formula E kind of microcosmos, I can see many similarities to common IT challenges that are shared across almost every IT team in the world. So for example, we're speaking about how everything needs to be net zero carbon, which means you have to send as little staff as possible, probably, and there's budget challenges, and you need to balance performance and security, which we will get to shortly, and agility, like everything has to happen immediately, but also everything has to be extremely stable because this is your infrastructure for the race. So from your personal and professional view, what would you rank as the top 3 priorities for IT leaders today?
Good question, yeah. Because first of all, we have a variety of different users on site at the track, like engineers, mechanics, all that. So very different requirements for IT as well. And that's a challenge, but similar, of course, to other operations. Of course, nothing special there, but it's really condensed into a small group of people with high expectation. That's pretty unique. And that's also the challenge, to really being able, operating all that, building up all that with one support person from the IT department we have on site. So believe it or not, but in the end, all that is done by one person. And that's bringing me to the main requirement. We really need to focus on the depth of products we are applying during race operations. So it's not possible for that one person to operate everything from network storage, everything on the full stack, like starting with layer 1 up to 5, and having the full overview of everything. So what we need to do there is to focus on the right level of products we are applying. So means, do we use software as a service solutions versus do we use the full stack and take the full responsibility of the stack? But that wouldn't be possible with that one person. So that's number one, focus on the right level of applying technology. Then it's all about the efficiency of the operation. So there are so many things happening in parallel, and that one person really needs to focus where it matters most. And that's connected to a proper solution for monitoring, and also in case there is an issue with one of the services, to be able to fix it in no time, ideally. And last but not least, of course, the built-in security. It's not about having a single person only focusing on security and having a whole security organization with us. It needs to be built in so that it's not creating additional effort for us as a team, but still it's key, and it's a key success factor to be secure with what we are doing.
All right, that's I think that's our 3 leading priorities every IT leader can take for sure. So if you mentioned both network and security, but zooming in on the network, can you describe without disclosing anything that is confidential, of course, can you describe the type of applications that you're using and what is required for them to operate optimally, and also how critical they are to winning the races by the Tag Heuer
Mhm.
Porsche Formula E team?
Yeah, absolutely, sure. So there are various kind of application, but I picked three which are representative for many others applications that are running in the background. So one of the key ones is the data analysis in total. So car is sending data, we can download the data after the session, and we have an operations room back in our headquarters in Weissach. So the engineers that are located in the operations room need to be able to do analysis on the data that was created directly from the car and from the environment at the racetrack, and then send it back to the race team on site to execute on the findings they had on how improve setup, on how to improve the strategy, etc. So it's very data intense, large amount of data, and it needs to be transferred back and forth during the wide area network, not just locally at the racetrack. So the second one is the real-time communication. It's a proprietary format which is used for race operations a lot. It's the big Mickey Mouse headsets you maybe see if you watch a race. It's same in most of the racing series, and that's real-time communication. So it means we need to optimize on real-time packages that are transmitted via the network. We are also interconnected with the operations room. So also that one is not just locally in the local network, but also on the wide area network. And there it's all about quality of service. It's maybe the most crucial way of communication, to have a direct link to the car and to the chief race engineer and to the support engineers in the operations room. And that's the real-time communication, quality of service. The last one is the driver in the loop and the whole simulation that is going on in the background. So all the data we are collecting, they are fetched into a huge calculation models and mathematical models. And by doing so, we try to find better setups, better strategies, especially the energy strategy in Formula E is crucial. We need to end the race ideally with 0.0 energy left. So that was or would be the most efficient race. And by doing or to achieve it, we need to run a lot of calculations, very compute intense, but also very data intense by transferring that data back and forth.
So it's amazing how much technology is involved, because if you're just the audience, you see a car racing, but learning about all those things that are in the underlying or behind the scene of such a race, it's quite overwhelming. And I have to say that I'm following the series, and it's always I always like hearing the narrator on, I see it on Eurosport, and how he's excited about the Porsche drivers and how they're great with managing their energy, especially compared to other drivers that have not as good teams or less experience with the electric racing cars. I mentioned security earlier and promised to get back to it. So not speaking specifically about Tag Heuer Porsche Formula E, but in general, what cyber threats are you worried about the most? There are many known cyber incidents in the automotive industry, none that I remember that involves Porsche, knock on wood. Is there a history of known cyber attacks or incidents in the sports industry?
Yeah, I heard of some of them in the news as well, in the media. A big one was with an American football team, with the San Francisco 49ers. They had a ransomware attack. A lot of data were encrypted, and they were blackmailed to pay. Like that kind of security breach would be worst case for us as well. So if the data is not available anymore, we are not able to make the decisions. Decisions are time critical in our case. The worst case, that could screw up a whole race weekend for us and highly risk any success we can achieve at the racetrack. So that means for us, it's mainly ransomware. Most of you maybe think it's pretty much about stealing data. That's not even so much the concern, because the race data that is produced, it's so fluent and we are developing so fast that it's not mainly about someone stealing the data and using it for their purpose. It's more about losing the data in general and not being able to access it anymore. That would be worst case.
Wow, yeah, I think that's a very scary scenario. So I'm happy that you're behind a very powerful security stack. And that brings me to the next question. So one of the reasons we are here now is due to this exciting partnership between Cato and the Heuer Porsche Formula E team. Can you speak about what you're using Cato for today? What additional areas or projects you think Cato's SASE can be of use for your team in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. The current approach is to connect all the sites we have at Porsche Motorsport. So we started with Formula E. We have a test team, we have a race team in Formula E, and we have the headquarters with the operations room. So all day, those sites were connected in the first step. But as you might know, at Porsche Motorsport, we are also doing many other racing activities with other cars and other racing series. And now we managed to apply Cato technology also for all the other racing activities we are currently in. That means we do the full security approach for all of them. We do the full WAN optimization for all of them and all the quality of service management for all of them. And that's especially now for us as the IT and the operational part of the whole thing is getting so much easier because it's one solution, it's the same, it's one dashboard. And in the case of there is something we need to investigate on, that's one guy being able on the weekend to access the management dashboard and overview all the sites that are online, which is now in total approximately 20 sites that are connecting to the Cato network.
Wow, that's amazing, and we are very honored to be in this partnership. So I think you kind of mentioned it, but because this is like, you know, a great opportunity to ask, I feel that I have to ask. Can you try to describe the before and after of this partnership, and what is the talk within the team about the before and after of Cato?
Yeah, I mentioned, as I described earlier, it's about 20 sites that are operating. So there were there already before Cato, of course, but that meant 20 site-to-site VPN connections we had to manage somehow. 20 sites we had to secure somehow, and all that was done on different levels. When it comes to configuration, different hardware, different configuration of the networks, because all that grew historically as well. So now, since we introduced Cato, everything is managed the same way, and the maintenance and the level of effort we need to put into maintenance of all that was decreased by a lot. So it's now one person mainly responsible to oversee and manage all that, and that can be done for all the different sites and racing series we are competing in. So that's the biggest change we had. And also, we don't need the big corporate IT anymore. We as Porsche Motorsport, we are a small company in the company. We are still 100% part of the Porsche AG, and but we need to be able to operate and decide on our own on the weekends. And by applying those technologies, we are now managing all ourselves and not need to rely anymore on the availability of the big corporate IT. So yeah, in the end, it's about the efficiency I mentioned at the beginning. That was totally achieved, and we can focus now more also on the race operation, which is key to be successful in motorsport, and need to focus less on IT, which is around it. So that's great. I love it.
Super. So before we finish, I'm gonna squeeze one last compliment. Can you speak about if and why? No, I'm assuming yes, but why would you recommend other IT leaders to look at the Cato SASE solution, how it can help them, what values they should expect to get from it?
I'd love to share our experience here. It's not even about squeezing compliment. It's just on what we experienced by collaborating with you. It was in the beginning, I think, from the very first time when we met and when we decided to use the Cato products till we went live with the first release, which we applied on Formula E. It was a matter of 1 to 2 weeks from like 0 to 100%. And that was mind-blowing for me, because implementing such a solution, which is so wide and deep in the network and so deeply established in the daily business, it was very, very quick, and yeah, great support there and pushing. It was a real motorsport mentality you brought into that project, because yeah, speed is key success factor, and you absolutely performed on that. And besides the very good experience we had now with being able to operate all the things I mentioned earlier, that's the fundament we are now building on. We focus more on the things that are more counting onto being successful in racing, and less effort for operate all that. So that's also, of course, achieved by your support. And last but not least, the whole reaction time we faced so far. So if we have ideas, motorsport is always very keen to create new ideas, innovation and stuff. And if we find something which we could improve, or things that are maybe not ideally yet, but then we talk to each other, and the response times, they were so great. And I think we already had several now occasions and examples already where we together, like, even involved by applying your products in the motorsport environment. So that's absolutely awesome, and we really appreciate that.
Wow. So first of all, on behalf of everybody at Cato that I'm representing here, thank you very much for trusting us with your critical infrastructure. And thank you personally, Friedemann, for joining me in this webinar. I'm sure it's been exciting to everybody who is online with us now, as it is for me. So thanks again. Really appreciate your time and the level of details and sharing everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayal, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.